Oh, but now I gotta get the link again. We are live.
So do you have the story though, already uploaded about Epic Bars and that guy? Because I don't remember his name. They said
Tilson?
once he puts his stamp on products, it's like they just take off.
Is that Tilson, you mean?
Is that the one who basically said that he invented bison jerky bars and the Tonka bars had already been around for ages?
No, he's the guy that actually invented Tonka bars.
No, I'm talking about the guy from Epic
Yeah.
who did not invent them, but he's said he did. He just came up with the idea out of the blue, even though it's already been around. That's like me building a car right now and then saying I invented cars in 2019.
Mm-hmm. So I think this is all set to go. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Do you want to introduce ourselves on Facebook and then do the traditional, or?
I think we should do it all at once.
Okay.
You're gonna get that up first, huh?
Mm-hmm. It's posting.
Okay.
Good evening. Welcome to Indian Times with Kevin and
Leo, how you doing, everybody? Thanks for tuning in again.
it's a cold night here in Lincoln on January 16th. And
Yes, it is.
yeah, lots to talk about this week. And we have some fun things for you too. We have some new and interesting, at least one interesting little thing we want to do later on. So stick with us for a while.
Yeah, we got a surprise for you guys.
Yes.
Hopefully you find it as a pleasant surprise.
Yes. All right. Well, should we just jump into it?
Yeah, let's jump into some news.
Okay.
You know.
Well, this obviously the big news this week is the shutdown, the government shutdown, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what it means for Indian country. It's the fourth week of the longest shutdown in American history, and you know, one of the most vulnerable people in the country, of course, are Native Americans. We rely on the federal government for all kinds of services, and those services, because we rely on the government for them, such as health care, such as food, if we don't have those services, or those services aren't funded properly, oftentimes we don't have anywhere else to go. You know, if you're living out in Mission or you're living out in Pine Ridge and your hospital is facing some kind of a funding shortfall, or staff aren't being paid and you can't get access to the health care you need, your options are pretty limited. Obviously there are other places you can go, but it's typically a pretty long drive to get to those places. So you know, here in Indian country, a few of the ways that the shutdown is affecting Native people is the fact that the food distribution program on Indian reservations, which is overseen by the Department of Agriculture, is one of the casualties of this shutdown. Now, this program helps more than 90,000 Native Americans and Alaskan Natives put food on the table, but funding for administrative functions will run out at the end of this month, so in about a couple of weeks or so. Some food shipments have actually already been delayed, and a prolonged shutdown will make matters worse. Now, one of the other ways that Indian country is being affected by this shutdown is through the funding that goes to urban Indian health programs. There are apparently 41 that are funded by the Indian Health Service. For those of you who don't know, you know, one of the things that was guaranteed to Native people upon the removal of many of those tribes to other places away from their homelands, when they gave up that land, oftentimes in the treaties and other ways, they would ask and require of the government free health care. So that was one of the promises made to Native people, was free health care. Now with this shutdown, that promise is possibly going to be denied. So there are 41 urban Indian health programs in the country. They're already very underfunded, these urban Indian health programs. For example, most of those programs typically spend just about $700 per patient, which is, you compare that to $10,000 per patient for the US on average. Here in Lincoln, we're actually looking at some possibilities of our urban Indian health center here shutting down. The Nebraska Urban Indian Medical Center in Lincoln, Nebraska, which is funded by IHS, says that its staff will not be getting paid as a result of this shutdown. Currently, their paychecks are coming out of cash reserves, but obviously that can't persist forever. So at some point, if you come here to the Urban Indian Medical Center in Lincoln, you may have to look at other options. I suppose some other options might be going to Winnebago to the hospital there. The Poncas also have a clinic in Omaha, the Fred Leroy Clinic. So that's another possibility if you need that sort of health care. But and I haven't looked into whether those that hospital and that clinic in Omaha are going to be affected either. So, I hate to send you someplace that may be affected by the shutdown as well. But I do know that those are certainly possibilities that you should look into if the Urban Indian Medical Center here in Lincoln is forced to close its doors. So.
Yeah, so, it's like the government shutdown does not affect the elitist, rich politicians and the rich corporate leaders that are now in power as well. So people like Trump doesn't really care because he's not affected, and he's never felt what it's like to have to be dependent on being paid on a regular basis. He had a father who could basically throw money at him and throw money at anybody else who tried to hold him accountable for some of the past crimes that he's been alleged as doing. Even his business failures. He's never had to be held accountable for any of that. So to him, he has a disconnect. So he doesn't really care about what's happening to the federal workers, let alone the native tribes. Because we are invisible to mainstream America. I went to some major cities, and I've said this before. I went to some major cities around America. I've been to Europe, and in Europe, they're amazed to see a native walking around, living native man walking around. But in America, there's some places I go, and they're amazed to see that I'm still alive, that there's natives still alive, and that I'm not just the last native, that there's actually still tribes of us, and there's still a whole nation, several nations of us that still exist in America. So people don't really care about what's happening to us, and a lot of people just don't even realize that we exist, let alone that there's a lot of struggle that's happening, and that's getting worse. We were already struggling. Now we got all of our funding that's starting to get cut. I mean, really, the honest truth is we have to start becoming self-sufficient. We have to start coming independent, because I went to Pine Ridge, and I went to look at this property. Right, it's abandoned Christian Academy, and one of the buildings is condemned, and it hasn't been in use for years and years and years. But I talked to them and tried to negotiate reopening it up and making a TP manufacturing company. One of the buildings that's condemned, ripping it down, demolishing it, and creating a geothermal greenhouse, and also starting up a treatment program there where we could have actually like a sustainable village on that same compound, where the people in the village in this treatment program could actually work in the greenhouse, work in the TP manufacturing, work in other businesses that we can create there, but also have a support system right there. Because with alcoholism being reported up to 80% sometimes for the adults in Pine Ridge, it's hard to find that circle of support. You go through a treatment program, and then you get thrown back into the fire, and you're supposed to be able to maintain your sobriety in that kind of a situation, and it's hard. I think another thing is making purpose for them by having them actually help to to generate more people coming into sobriety, convert more people into being sober. But here's the problem that I ran into. Okay, so there's a lot of people in the tribe that I talk to who are very willing to work with me. They love this idea. They love the fact that I have a network of people who are experts who want to help to actually bring this into fruition. But the BIA is closed right now, so everything's on standstill. And I asked the tribe, I said, you know, if you guys are willing and you talk to each other and you guys take a vote on it in your committee and you guys decide that you are willing to green light this, let me know so that I can start doing some planning on the backside. And even that, they still have to go to the BIA and still have to have the BIA approve it, you know? And that's the bureaucracy we have to deal with, to go through like 4 levels of government before a business can actually work in a place like on a reservation. But right now, you know, I won't even know for sure whether or not this, even if they decide that they want to do this, if it'll go through, because the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, is closed down right now, you know. And that's really, it's really just troubling to see that a man like Donald Trump just does not care about the average human being, the average person in the government. And I can't believe that he's even in power, you know, still in power. They just had a news article come out about 2 news articles come out about him, them having an investigation into him. The FBI opened an investigation to see if he actually was working for the Russians, you know. And we've all been hearing about it. We've all been thinking this for a long time. All the evidence leads to that conclusion, but yet, you know, there's an official investigation into it, and now people can actually talk about it out loud, you know. And the shutdown is directly because of him, and the shutdown is directly because his base that still support him are dealing in race baiting and in fear mongering for any other ethnic group other than white. You know, that's the bottom line to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now it's amazing how much this shutdown is affecting everybody. I talked to a friend of mine who works for the BIA in Washington, D.C. this week. Both him and his wife work for the BIA. And, they're both out of work right now. They're not getting paid. They're not entirely certain they'll get paid once, they'll get that back pay, I guess, once they start, but they think they probably will. They've only got enough money for about another week, they said, and after that they'll have to start looking at loans. Of course, there are companies who are stepping up to provide that money to furloughed federal employees, but I also think about the work that he did. He was an accountant, and his wife was an administrator within a division of the BIA. And what isn't being done since he isn't at his desk, crunching these numbers and making sure that bills are paid, within the bureau, that tribes' bills are paid. All of these things add up, if you don't have somebody who's willing to do your accounting and doing these kinds of duties and all kinds of other duties that occur at the BIA, some very basic functions will very quickly, cease operation. We'll start to see all kinds of impacts that we couldn't even imagine, really. I realize this is sort of silly to say, but my wife and I are actually waiting for part of our refund still from this past year from the IRS, and we'd got a letter from the IRS in November saying they were going to review it on December 30th. So of course you know how that went. So now we're just kind of sitting waiting for that as well. Now that's not too big a deal. It's not like we need that money to survive or anything. That was just gonna, I don't know what we're gonna do with it, but that's just one way, I guess, of countless ways that I'm sure this shutdown is affecting myself that I don't even see. I mean, this is one way I see, but I'm sure there are plenty of ways that I don't see that it's affecting me. So.
Well, I mean, the Trump administration had some helpful hints for you. If you're actually dependent on that money, so you can go out and walk dogs.
Okay.
You can have a garage sale and sell your furniture that you don't really need as much. You can sell your vehicle. I mean, this is true. Like, I'm not making this up. I'm not exaggerating.
Fast food, probably.
Yeah, they said that they went through this whole list of tips for federal workers who are having a hard time budgeting right now because they don't have income coming in what they can do to supplement their income.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because, you know, it's just ridiculous that somebody who's extremely rich and has golden toilets and, you know, goes to Mar-a-Lago that he owns on a regular basis to go play golf and hobnob with all these rich people, comes up with these suggestions for the working poor or the working middle class, how they can just easily supplement their income that they no longer are getting. And he denied federal workers raise as well, you know.
Yeah.
So and some of these people are the Republicans that voted for him.
Yeah.
You know, and so you go to think what motivates them to still be loyal to him.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the only thing I can think of is racism. You know, white supremacy. That's all I can think of is the only logical reason that I believe that people are still supporting him is because at one time, you know, and only reason I learned this was because I was watching some white supremacists propaganda, and at one time, the whites in America, after basically almost completely wiping out our people, the native people, were 90% of the population in America, and now this propaganda report said that they're close to 60%. So they're still over half the population of America, even though the indigenous people are native, right? So at 60%, they're starting to feel like, oh no, we're going to lose control. We're going to lose our dominance over this country. There's going to be an equality that we can't deal with because we love having our entitlement, our ability to have more benefits, unequal benefits over not just the indigenous people, because you know we have been basically neutralized when it comes to our effects on this country. You know, like I said, most people think we're gone. Most people don't even think we still exist. But now that we have all these other different ethnic groups coming in, and we're having a say in politics, and we had a black president, a mixed president. He was black and white mixed. You know, they're feeling this fear of loss of control, loss of power. You know, that's all based in greed. That's all based in lust for power, and it's all madness. You know, because why can't we all be equal? You know, I heard this comedian once say, and this was powerful and it's really serious to me. But a comedian said this. He said that when the whites came here, they asked who owns this land, and the natives said nobody did. That you know we all coexist on this land, and the whites were used to ownership. They believe in ownership, so they said, okay, well we own this land now, and so you need to get off our land. You know, and that's how it all happened. That's how it all started. And it was a joke. He was joking about it, but it's, you know, there's a lot of truth based in humor sometimes.
Yeah, I'm amazed at how much wisdom you actually get from comedians. It's
Yeah.
kind of troubling,
Yeah.
honestly.
Cool. I got that though. I got what he just said, and it was funny. And there's some truth based in it, you know. Speaking of that, let's go into a question we have. Okay, so this is going to be an unofficial survey we're going to do, so you guys can weigh in on this now, and you can weigh on it later too. Okay. So our name, the name of our podcast is Indian Times with Kevin and Leo, right? So, Kevin, tell them what you were thinking. We just brought this up.
Sure. So you know, one of the reasons that we've come up with the name Indian Times was a reference to the phrase Indian time, which if you're native, you certainly understand. It's a phrase that we use to describe how we're all late to everything. You know, we call it if Leo is, you know, a half hour late to some event, we say, oh, he's on Indian time. So we all know what it means, but you know, by making it a plural, I'm sort of wondering whether people understand that that's what it's a reference to. So my idea was just to cut the plural and call it Indian Time with Kevin and Leo.
And I personally think that our viewers are a lot smarter than that and have a lot more common sense than that, and they'll realize that we took a spin on Indian time and put Indian Times to talk about what's happening in our society today, you know, and even like with some of the other news outlets that have times in the word, it kind of puts a spin and combines the two, and I figured people would actually get that, you know, and maybe if you feel like they don't get that, I mean, we can ask them, do you get it? Or are you confused?
You get us?
I think they do. I think we should have
Yeah.
faith in them.
Okay, all right, well,
See, that's
yeah,
that's me.
let us know, please.
That's me
Yeah.
doing reverse psychology on him to try to make him look bad and try to get you guys to get them to vote on my side. It's kind of like manipulation a little bit there. I'm gonna admit it.
Yeah.
But yeah, what else we got going on?
Well, this week on Sunday, actually, Donald Trump went on the attack once again using his favorite medium, Twitter. He blasted his political rival, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, employing some language that some have described as racist. Here's the quote. Yeah, that was on Twitter. If Elizabeth Warren often referred to me to buy. Okay, this is terrible. So this is just Donald Trump language, but often referred to by me as Pocahontas, did this commercial from Bighorn and Wounded Knee instead of her kitchen with her husband dressed in full Indian garb, it would have been a smash. Now this was a tweet that came out after Elizabeth Warren did a video that she posted on her Twitter page in which she's in her kitchen, and I think she was having a beer, and I don't know, I mean she was just trying to relax a little bit and have some fun with her followers. So this was Donald Trump's response. Now, of course, he's called Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas for some time now, and it's really been, a cause of a lot of division, even within Indian country. I think there's a lot of people who think that she shouldn't be describing herself as Native American in any way, because she isn't a member of a tribe. She's never, as far as I know, I don't think she's ever claimed to be a member of a tribe. Rather, she's claimed ancestry. And there are others who say that, if she has Native ancestry, and apparently she did one of those ancestry.com tests and did find some Indian blood in her blood, and so she thinks that kind of proves it. But there are other people who say, if she does have Native blood, then she should be able to at least claim that she has that, and that shouldn't be an issue. So that's been sort of a cause of some division, and it sometimes seems to fall along political lines as well, of course, in this divisive culture we have. The National Congress of American Indians today, actually, or maybe it was yesterday, actually. No, it was yesterday, criticized Donald Trump for the tweet, saying, and this is a quote from NCAI President Jefferson Keel, "We condemn in the strongest possible terms the casual and callous use of these events as part of a political attack. Hundreds of Lakota, Cheyenne, Arapaho people lost their lives at the hands of the invading U.S. Army during these events, and their memories should not be desecrated as a rhetorical punchline." Obviously, criticism is aimed at Donald Trump's, use of these events, the Little Bighorn, Wounded Knee, one being one of the greatest triumphs against the U.S. government, the other being one of the worst massacres by the U.S. government of Native people, in order to make fun of Elizabeth Warren once again. So.
See, and one thing. Okay, so how do you feel about Elizabeth Warren stating that she thinks she has Indian in her?
If she has Native ancestry, I don't have an issue with that. Now here's where I sort of, I think there's a line here for me. And the line is that, does she benefit from claiming that? Has she ever got a scholarship? Because she said she was Native American. Has she ever got accepted to some program or some university because she claimed Indian ancestry? I feel like those kinds of things, whether you're eligible for a certain scholarship or you're, you get into a university because you claim Native ancestry, those things, that bothers me a little bit when somebody who isn't a tribal member or doesn't have fairly direct lineage to a tribal member, when they claim that in order to get those kinds of benefits. So, and I haven't researched it enough to know whether she's ever benefited in that way. But for her to say, I'm Native American or I have some Native American blood, I guess I don't have an issue with that, as long as she does.
So, I know that Deb Haaland, who is a new senator,
Yeah,
or excuse me, new congresswoman,
Mexico.
yeah. So she defends Elizabeth Warren's claim that she has native blood in her. But she also defended her when someone was talking derogatory towards her, because there's a lot of racist slurs that have been going towards her that she has a lot harder time defending because she's blonde. You know, she's predominantly white woman. But you know, now that Deb Haaland's in Congress, it's a lot harder for somebody to throw around slurs when you have someone who is predominantly native in right there in the room with you. And I really love that, you know, because people are like, well, how can you make a difference when you're just one or two people in Congress, and there's so many other people that you have to deal with, and so many other people that have this vote or this influence? Well, you actually change the playing field, because you actually add more dynamic to that playing field, you know, and that's what I really appreciate. And so I don't know what to think about Elizabeth Warren. I mean, if she ends up becoming president, I hope she helps our people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you're right. That's all that matters. I mean, does she help Native people? Well, that's not all that matters. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's an important point to make that if she helps Native people, if she uses this sort of identity that she's established as part Native, and she uses that to help Native people in any way. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's a good thing, I guess. But I'm still concerned as to whether she's benefited from that in any way in her past. So there are some people who say she has. So. In any case, you know, as far as the use of these two events, the Battle of Little Bighorn and the Massacre of Wounded Knee, I mean, wow. I mean, when I saw that tweet, it was infuriating. I mean, it was just so fucking frustrating. Especially Wounded Knee, you know. Obviously, Little Bighorn is something that was a moment of pride for a lot of tribes. But the Wounded Knee massacre was certainly not. And to use that in order to criticize a political opponent, to me, was a perfect example as to why we need Native people in Congress and the Senate and politics in general. The fact that sort of thing is allowed to stand and nobody really criticizes it except for Native people shows just how little the dominant culture here really knows about Native people in our history.
So here's a little bit from CNN Politics. It said, did it play a role in her career? Harvard Law School in the 1990s touted Warren, then a professor in Cambridge, as being Native American. They singled her out. Warren later acknowledged because she had listed herself as a minority in an Association of American Law Schools directory. Critics note that she had not done that in her student application and during her time as a teacher at the University of Texas. Warren maintains she never furthered her career by using her heritage to gain advantage, and an in-depth investigation by the Boston Globe published on September 1st found, oh man, what was that about? Hold on, found the same. At every step of her remarkable rise in the legal profession, the report read, the people responsible for hiring her saw her as a white woman. So she did register as Native American with the Association of American Law Schools directory, but she didn't use it for her application for school, for college. So apparently she didn't get any grants because of it.
But she was touted by Harvard as being a Native American professor. And, you know, as to how that might have helped her or helped the Harvard, you know.
I mean, there's some tests like, has she ever eaten buffalo meat? You know what I mean?
That is the point, yeah. Has she ever eaten a raw buffalo heart from a recently killed buffalo that she killed?
Still
yeah.
warm. Or even like buffalo jerky.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever eaten buffalo jerky?
I have. Yeah.
Have you ever eaten buffalo jerky? You know where I'm going with this?
I know where you're going with this, but let's wait on that.
Okay, we're gonna wait on that one.
Okay, we'll get back to you on that.
We're gonna get back to you. What we got next going on?
I wanted to mention something really cool. So there was a Winnebago 16-year-old girl, Donette Moniz Rayom, who had a letter that she wrote published in the Omaha World Herald this week. And it was just a really, really beautiful essay. If you want to look it up, let me spell her name for you. It's Donette, Daunnette, Moniz, Moniz hyphen Rayome, Reyome. So I think if you Google that, you should be able to find this essay that appeared in the World Herald. So this was something. Now, Dawnette is actually met her this past summer. She was a participant in the Sovereign Native Youth Leadership Academy that was hosted by the Nebraska Commission on Indian Affairs. A really cool program held every summer here in Lincoln and sometimes in Crete. And she was a member of that and an outstanding member of that, although she spent the whole time in a wheelchair because she had broken her leg just before the camp. But, certainly a very shining star for a lot of the students in that camp, including my son, who, also took part in that camp this summer. But, she's a model and has been since the age of 11. And also in 2017 was a guest speaker for the United Nations International Day of the Girl event. Now this essay was something that her English teacher, Brooke Hall, and apparently Joe Starita, who's a college professor in journalism at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, had urged her to write. And the subject was to educate others about the cultural identity struggle many Native American girls face in today's society, as well as provide all readers an opportunity to claim their voice and be a fearless agent of change. I'm just going to read a few lines from the essay here. I know what society expects of me, but I refuse to limit myself to those expectations. I am expected to stay quiet and listen. Don't say anything, the adults are speaking. I'm expected to cover every blemish that appears on my face. Boys don't like pimples. I'm expected to know all my culture, language, traditions, and practices. But who is left to teach me? I'm expected not to have an opinion yet. You're too young. You don't know enough yet. And I'm expected to fail because of institutional racism and historical trauma that never seems to end. And I realize that little excerpt there is pretty negative, but if you go ahead and find this essay on the Omaha World Herald, there's a very nice conclusion to that.
Negative. It's realistic.
Absolutely,
it's realistic. Yeah. One thing that really annoys me and offends me is when I hear older Native men, and I've even heard some women say this, and I just don't agree with it at all. Native women, but mainly older Native men who come from different cultures, different tribes. They say that when we're in a group and a man and a woman are together, that the man is supposed to speak for the woman, right? And I just don't agree with that at all. I don't know if that's a traditional thing or if it's not, if it's something that got kind of snuck in there through patriarchy or if it was real with some of the tribes, but I just don't agree with it. I don't think in modern times we need to be worried about women getting permission to talk by elder men or their husbands, or if you're out in a social group gathering or an official meeting, to me that just is ridiculous. I don't agree with it. I don't believe in it. I was saved by women. My grandmother saved me from the dysfunctions and the trauma that's happened in my family, and strong women saved me from being in a cage still today, or being killed, or killing myself even. So I don't feel like these were leaders. These were women who were leaders who, even right now with Phyllis Stone, she's a leader who, Crystal Ferguson. These are leaders who have basically helped keep me grounded, and I don't feel like they have to stay quiet or wait to talk behind any man or woman or leader or anyone, Yeah. And so some of the things she's talking about right there, that's some of the same patriarchal suppression that she has to deal with. But yet we have all these women who are becoming leaders who have saved us over all these generations. Speak up, speak out. That's how I feel, and I'm not going to change my thoughts. And if anybody gets mad at me, I still believe this because this is in my heart. And sometimes when it's in your heart, regardless of what old tradition might be behind it, if it's chauvinistic, I don't think it's right.
No, not at all. Yeah, so anyway, if you get a chance, please do check out the essay, and let us know what you think. So we're going to do something a little little different here tonight. And to sort of lead into it, I wanted to tell a little story here, first of all. But there was a story that appeared on a website called newfoodeconomy.org recently. And it must have been within the last couple of weeks or so. But the story's pretty interesting. You know, it caught my eye. It was about how a new product that you'd probably find on the shelves of most Hy-Vees. I know I found one today on the shelf of one of the Hy-Vees here in Lincoln. It's a new product called the Epic Bar. And it's a kind of a jerky and cranberry mixed, usually buffalo, bison meat and cranberry mixed meat stick. And there's an interesting story behind this. So the makers of this Epic Bar, Katie Forrest and Taylor Collins, apparently they said they invented this this jerky back in 2011. And here's their story. They say that they were vegan endurance athletes who decided to turn to meat in order to power their training regimen. Now, apparently they had gotten hooked on grass-fed bison and started making unusual bars from meat, dried fruit, and seeds. And eventually they came up with this Epic Bar. And they founded Epic Provisions, which is the company that makes the Epic Bar. Demand grew so quickly that General Mills actually bought them out back in 2016 for $100 million. Now here's the issue behind this. So this is the story that the Epic Bar has told, that General Mills has told, is that Katie Forrest and Taylor Collins invented this back in 2011.
So 2011.
Yeah, if any of you know what we're talking about here, we're talking about wasna. We're talking about bison meat and fruit. We use different kinds of fruit, but they use cranberries in their mixture, and there is actually a bar that was developed back in 2006.
In 2006.
Now this is
that couldn't be right because Epic Bar invented it in 2011.
Somebody's not telling the truth.
That's 5 years later.
So in 2006, there was two entrepreneurs, Mark Tilson and Carlene Hunter, who started making the Tonka Bar. And,
Tonka Bar.
This is the first commercial meat and fruit bison bar. I'm just going to say it.
Pine Ridge
it was the first developed on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. Now the goal of this project, which was sourced and produced by Native people, was to help reduce the reservation's employment rate, which hovers around 65%. Now the formula for their bars was based on wasna, this traditional food that Native people consumed that was made out of traditional meat, typically bison, and some kind of berries that they could collect and mix together. And this is often what would keep tribes and Native people alive during their winters. It's something that could be stored inside of actually buffalo bellies, and stored in the winters and would help keep the tribes alive. So Leo and I had a little kind of an interesting idea where we want to taste test, these two bars, and kind of figure out which one we think that might be the better. So we bought some. We actually purchased some, and we've got a couple of each. We've got let's see, I'll show you here. This is the Epic Bar. This is actually purchased in Hy-Vee today here in Lincoln, and it was about $2.50, and it says it's 100% natural bison, and it also has uncured bacon and cranberry in it. And so that's what you see on the front of the Epic Bar package.
So these here are the Tonka bars, okay? Now Tonka bars are actually a little bit more expensive. They're $3.50. They're not being mass produced in the same way as the Epic bars are, because General Mills bought Epic bars, and so they're going to be a little bit more expensive, but they're also coming straight from the reservation, straight from indigenous people, so I think that makes up for the difference.
And they benefit, the sale of these items benefit the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, so certainly consider that as well.
Okay, so Jason said that Epic is colonizing the buffalo snacks, which sounds
Yeah.
really true. Like they have decided to claim that they invented these. It's like basically claiming that America was invented by Europeans, even though we were already here ahead of time.
Now, for full disclosure, I did argue with Leo that we should do a blind taste test. And I think the reason he argued against that is because he's afraid that he'll like the Epic Bar better. So,
Well,
I'm just
let's
gonna say it. I said
let's
it.
look at what's in them. Let's look at what's in the bars. Okay.
I have faith. I have faith in the Tonka
Okay.
Bar
What do you
myself.
got in the Epic bar? Let's see what's going on.
So in the Epic Bar, and I'm sure it's some long list of ingredients, we have bison, uncured bacon, no nitrates or nitrates added. Now it does go into a little more detail. It says pork, water, brown sugar, salt, vinegar, celery powder, sea salt, dried cranberries, and celery powder and sea salt.
All right. Let's try it out. Let's see
All right.
what's got going on here.
Doesn't smell bad.
Doesn't smell good either, but it doesn't smell bad. The texture really is a little bit soft, so it doesn't have the texture of a regular beef jerky.
No, it's very, very processed. I mean, it's you probably can't see the texture of this in any sort of way, but it's almost gooey. It's not. I don't really sense like like strands or whatever you want to call it. It's not stringy.
Yeah, it doesn't have the muscle fibers anymore. The meat's been chewed up or processed or ground up and then mixed with all these other ingredients. Another thing that I noticed in here was bacon. And I personally, I'm not supposed to be eating pork anymore. Actually, when I went to Mexico to this cancer clinic, they told me not to eat pork anymore. And they told me what specific reasons, but I can't remember right now. And when I was going through my cancer treatments, I had so much information thrown at me that it's just all a big blur now. But I've avoided pork since then. But this has some in it, and I'm not religiously obligated to stay away from pork, so it doesn't really hurt me to try it out. But what do you think?
It's not terrible. Honestly, it's something that if the Tonka Bar didn't exist or I couldn't find it on the shelf and this was there, I still wouldn't buy it just because of the story behind it.
I mean,
but if I didn't know better,
I think it tastes good.
Yeah,
and plus it's buffalo meat, and that's what I like about it too.
Yeah, true.
So it has apple juice in it, apple juice concentrate.
That's what sucks about all this is that most people don't know better. They don't, when they see these two on the shelf next to each other, they don't think there's anything real different about them, which is really unfortunate.
So does it say it has no nitrates and stuff like that in it?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
You want to read the back of the Tonka Bar and tell them what's in it?
Sure, we got two of them, so I'll start with the orange one.
I think we should do the regular one first.
Okay,
since
let's
it's the
do the
most
regular.
comparable to the one we just tried.
Is it regular?
This doesn't have.
Okay.
Just buffalo meat cranberries, the same as.
Okay, so the regular Tonka Bar has buffalo, dried cranberries, sea salt, encapsulated lactic acid, celery juice, black pepper, spices, garlic, onion powder, red pepper. So this one might have a little bit more of a tang to it.
Yeah, it sounds like it has some more ingredients.
Let's see what we got going on here.
Yeah.
This is the regular bar. You guys can see it. Tonka Bar, Tonka.
Not as strong of a smell. Now, as soon as I opened that Epic Bar, I was kind of hit by an aroma. Certainly not that strong with this.
This one
way
smells
more
better.
It smells like a
actually.
beef jerky.
Yeah. Yeah, this one has a weird smell to it. Like this one smells like almost like new socks.
Yeah.
Or the inside of a new shoe. Not that I'm weird and smell the inside of shoes.
He's got a bit of a foot fetish, so let's be honest here. But we can talk about that one. All right.
And it's thicker. Like it's more coarse meat. This one here is It's soft and it's not quite mushy, but it is almost to that consistency.
Yeah, it's
Where
almost like a McNugget or something compared
yeah,
to
it was
like a
easy to
regular,
rip. It was easy to rip the Epic Bar apart. This one
Yeah.
here, it's got a little bit more toughness to it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's more meaty.
Man. No comparison.
It's a lot more natural flavor.
Yeah, no,
So-
it's real food.
This one tastes a little bit more processed, the Epic Bar. Yeah, I think I like
Way more flavor. Yeah, just
the Tonka one
Mhm.
better with the cranberries. The second one we have is buffalo meat with cranberries, apple, and orange peel.
mhm.
When I saw this in the store, I was thinking, why in the hell would you put orange peels in your Tonka bar? But we're gonna try it, and I'm gonna tell you the truth about what I think about it.
Mhm.
But so far, the original, to me, is better than the Epic Bar, which
Yeah.
is more soft, more processed tasting, and it smells a little bit weird.
It's more bland. I mean, this
Yeah.
Tonka bar has spices and pepper.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just got kick to it a little
More,
bit.
it's more natural flavor,
Yeah.
flavorful, more naturally flavorful.
Yeah, something you could make at home almost,
Yeah.
you know, rather than.
Okay, so let me do the
Oh yeah.
ingredients again. Okay, so this is the one that says with cranberries, apple, and orange peel. It says it has ingredients: buffalo, dried cranberries, dried apples, sea salt, lactic acid, celery juice, black pepper, cane crystals. So is that just sugar?
Yeah.
Okay. Dehydrated orange peels, which I don't understand why you would put that in there. Spices, cinnamon, onion, and garlic pepper. Powder, excuse me. So it's got a lot more spices in it, and it's got more natural ingredients, it sounds like, than the other one. This one actually ripped apart a little bit easier than the original Tonka bar.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit more softer than the original,
Mhm.
but it's not quite as soft as the Epic Bar. It's sweeter. It's sweeter as well,
Yeah.
I think.
I think the cranberries must, for some reason, be able to combine with the bison meat a little better than the orange peel. I would think. Maybe that's part of the reason why this orange flavor seems a little more, just kind of a gooey consistency rather than. Yeah.
Well, I think one of the reasons probably is because there's more ingredients to this, so it's got more stuff mushed together and then compacted into this bar. Where this one here has less ingredients, so it means it has more just meat by itself on there.
You know, it's too bad we can't show you close up like what these two bars look like differently. I mean, the Epic bar, kind of very smeared, kind of a brown flavored, not very appetizing appearance. Versus like the Tonka bar, I mean, it's very dark. It's very, got a lot of texture to it. You see the darkness from the cranberries, very visible. It's not quite as smeared a texture. It just looks more real.
I think we can show 'em. I don't think you'll be able to really tell the difference though, but
Yeah.
this one here, that's the Epic Bar.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this one here is the Tonka bar. Let me see which Tonka bar this is. This is the Tonka original bar right here. So you can see the color of it's different. You see how this one almost looks stale colored, and this one here looks more like meat.
Yeah.
So those are a difference. I don't think you can really tell the difference in the texture though as much by looking at them. But
Yeah.
you're paying $1 more for the Tonka bar, but honestly, the Tonka bar is better quality, and I'm not being biased just because I know it's native made. It actually is better,
Yeah.
and you'll be able to tell when you try it yourself.
Well, that was an easy taste test for me.
So, let us know what you think about the name, and don't let my manipulation I did earlier influence you.
Mhm.
If you think Indian Time is better than Indian Times, let us know.
Yeah.
And let us know what you think about these Tonka bars and
Yeah.
Epic bars, because they have Epic has a lot of different actual meat varieties too. So
Yeah, and you can get different kinds of meat, like, venison or chicken, things like that. Um, but I thought I'd stick with the bison just to make them kind of a comparable
yeah.
thing here tonight. But another thing, if you have some ideas on things, native products that you'd like us to compare to maybe a non-native counterpart, we'd love to do that. I mean, that's, I think, an important maybe service that we can provide here is to kind of let people know at least what we think about some of these native products that are out there and how they compare to some of their non-native competitors.
Yeah.
So,
Like for one thing, there's a lot of native print you can buy at like Target, Walmart, that kind of stuff. And then there's places online you can go and actually buy native designed clothing wear as well. So I just recently seen some tennis shoes that are native designed tennis shoes. And I thought those looked pretty cool. But there's you can find both. You can find fake moccasins and you can find real moccasins. You can find fake tennis shoe native pattern, and you can find real tennis shoe native pattern. One of the big differences I find though is the price. When you get mass produced from Taiwan or China or India or any other places with sweatshops, you're going to get a reduced price. When you get it coming from the reservation or you get it coming from a native owned company, the price is going to be higher because the costs are higher because of I don't know what would you think that's called? Basically, like human rights laws are different for one.
yeah, you're just paying people more.
Huh?
You're just paying people more.
Yeah.
So produce it.
Yeah, because in China and in Taiwan and in India, those people are treated pretty unjustly when it comes to being reimbursed for their labor, as opposed to buying from the source, from the indigenous source here in America. And the quality is different as well. You might not notice in the beginning, but after a while you can tell that this comes from the original people rather than a mass-produced replica. So yeah, even though these were $1 more, they are better.
Yeah, they are better. Cool. Anything else you want to talk about?
We want to do more of these type of things.
Yeah.
If you guys have ideas for us, please let us know.
Mm-hmm.
And this was really fun, and we're gonna end this soon so that I can finish these off. And I'm gonna finish this Epic bar.
Yeah.
I mean, it isn't as good as these ones here, but I'm gonna finish it anyway.
Yeah.
Cause it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't like the fact that this guy's getting credit for inventing these bars in 2011.
Well, and
When this one was already created in 2006.
it's had a real impact on the Tonka bar. They've actually lost a lot of revenue because of the Epic bar. They actually had to take out a loan recently in order to,
Yeah.
try to amp up production so they could keep up with obviously the mass production of this Epic bar, which is everywhere. It's ubiquitous now, and the Tonka bar is really struggling to try to keep up with that.
Yeah.
You probably won't be able to, honestly, but
Here's another thing. So I went back to Pine Ridge, and like I said about scouting for that compound, and the last time I was there was a dollar store in Pine Ridge. Okay, White Clay shut down, and a dollar store came in there, and they bought this property from one of the liquor store owners for an astronomically inflated price, which actually caused a ripple effect so that all the other property that was available, the price became ridiculously inflated as well. But not only that, this time when I went back, that native owned Pine Ridge located dollar store that was there is now closed down. And that's the kind of thing that we have to deal with is
wow.
we as a people, not just natives, but all of us as a people working together need to support these small companies because these small companies rely on us. And if you let the mass produce big corporate chain companies come in and kill these companies off, it's killing off part of our economy, killing off part of our influence as well, you know. And Tonka Bar is good. It's quality food, and it's causing our people to be able to it's causing our people to be able to thrive just a little bit more, you know.
Mhm.
So when you go to the stores and you look at the difference, go ahead, try it. Try it yourself. Don't just believe me. Try it yourself. Try it yourself and tell us what you think. And then if you believe us, go ahead and buy the Tonka bars. Somebody said don't support Monsanto companies. Yeah.
General Mills is a Monsanto company.
Oh yeah, Monsanto. Yeah. Monsanto's ruining Hawaii.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. It's ruining a lot of the world. You know, poisoning it. And then they're getting involved in the medical field too. You know, it's like, okay, let me poison you guys, make you sick, and then let me make a profit off of you being sick. So it's a deliberate exploitation, and we're all stuck right in the middle of it. So we have to make conscious efforts to do what is right. And Tonka bars are not just right; they're good.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we make a choice every time we walk into a store and we decide, you know, between Epic and Tonka, but we also make a choice on what store we walk into, you know, and whether it's a Walmart or whether it's, you know, the Sioux Trading Post, maybe. Well, maybe that's not a bad, that's a bad example, since Sioux Trading Post, as last I saw, wasn't native owned, but in any case, there are plenty of native shops that you can go to, you know, on various reservations. My wife and I actually visited a Native American arts and crafts supply store up in Walt Hill, Nebraska, on the Omaha reservation, and really great place. But I thought that was really cool to be able to go in there and, you know, support that kind of a business. So, in any case. All right, well.
thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
We'll see you again next week.
Mm-hmm. Good night.
Dog shop.